Gary Danielson, CBS Sports lead college football analyst. He was on the call for the Iron Bowl with Auburn and Alabama. Auburn's 48 points in Saturday's win, the most against a Nick Saban coach team. You have to go back to Michigan State when Saban was there in 1999. They gave up 52 to a Purdue team that was led by Drew Brees. Gary Danielson joining us. Gary, good morning. What surprised you most about that game with Alabama and Auburn?
That it, matched up and in some ways overshadowed the kick six game. I mean, that'll never be an ending like that, but for all the moving parts in that game, and, Gus has got a strange offense, and Nick is substituting on every play on defense. There's just a lot of moving parts, and that 6 minutes at the end of the half, I've never seen anything like that. I've been doing it for over 20. I think I've done 500 live games. I've never seen anything like that.
But you also have this team, you have a Nick Saban coach team that has all these penalties. It's just surprising that they pride themselves in their defense, and you don't commit penalties, and they weren't good in either category against Auburn.
I think, Dan, there's no doubt that the Alabama team was feeling the pressure in this football game. That they were feeling the past history of Alabama being in the playoffs. They knew they had to come in and beat a really good Auburn team. I have to say, if Auburn would have gotten one of those transfer, quarterbacks, this might be the top team in the country. They played an unbelievable schedule. For them to only lose 3 games, they have a championship defense. And in modern day football, championship defense is not holding teams to 10, 11 points. Back in the day, when I went up against those Bears defenses, I mean, if you got 3 first downs in a row, you were happy. The game has changed, but I think the Alabama team really felt that, they had to come through. They had a new quarterback, and you could see it. They were overreacting emotionally to plays that they used to be able to handle pretty easily.
We like to play the hypothetical. If Bama had Tua, how different is the outcome?
I actually think they would have won both games. As good as LSU was, Tua was so rusty in that football game. The downside of the tightrope ankle surgery that Tua had was maybe instead of being, for that game, 70%, he might have been 85%. But what happened is he had to take 2 full weeks off of practice, where if you have a sprained ankle, I played with a high ankle sprain, you practice, you just limped in practice. And I think him taking those days off really was, first half of that game, Tua was not the same. Dan, you see these receivers. They have 4 NFL receivers. They have the modern day football. They really have 4 Antonio Browns on the field without the baggage. That's how good they are. And there's no college team that can slow these guys down with Tua on his game. So I saw one projection that Alabama would have 10 of the top 50 players drafted. I mean, Clemson and Ohio State have really separated themselves for talent that's going on right now in college football.
I know this probably isn't your wheelhouse, but you played the position. If you were going to look at Joe Burrow at LSU and Tua and kind of fast forward to what kind of pro quarterback, we had Rick Neuheisel on a couple of weeks ago, and he said Joe Burrow reminds him of a young Tom Brady. I mean, you can't get any higher praise than that.
No, that's true, and I did hear Rick talk about that. Rick is a really good eye, a sharp eye for talent. I do think he has some of the traits, some of the leadership traits that Brady has, and maybe he has that chip on his shoulder, by being an Ohio kid and not winning that job when he thought he was good enough to win it. So I think that comparison could hang there. In his stature and the way he plays style-wise, and it goes back a ways. It may hit you more than, maybe some of your listeners, but he actually reminds me of Kenny Anderson, the way he plays football. And Kenny was the best for those years. And I think he'd be a great fit for Cincinnati. I really do. Tua is different in a lot of ways. He has a spatial awareness that, only a few people have. The Aaron Rodgers, the Drew Brees, the Magic Johnsons, the Isaiah Thomases that see space where other people see picket fences. They see the holes between the picket fences. I never had that ability. It was more of a grind for me. To me, Tua is Kurt Warner. The way he can deliver the deep ball and see plays unfold, he just has a gift. It's an unteachable gift. Now, everybody has an Achilles heel. Nobody gets it all. And Tua may be a little more injury prone. I don't know. Everybody gets a sprained ankle. I remember Matthew Stafford early in his career with the Lions. He got injured a few times, and everybody said he was going to be injury prone. And then he got over it, and he had a great run of plays. So I think Tua is worth the risk. I really do, because I just think he's a special player.
He's Gary Danielson, former NFL quarterback, CBS Sports lead college football analyst. If you were the Michigan athletic director, what would you do?
I love Jim Harbaugh. I have to say, I thought Jim Harbaugh was going to do to Michigan what Kirby Smart has done to Georgia. It's the same hire, if you ask me. Bringing back Kirby, an ex-player, bringing back Jim. I'm shocked what's happened in the last 3 years watching Ohio State's players, their impact players all over the field, and seeing the difference between them and watching Michigan's players. It just looked like there's space that wasn't there, 3 years ago when it was a fourth down play. It just looked like they've separated. I have to say, for a long time, I don't know, the resume that Urban Meyer has put on his coaching tree, what he did all the way from Bowling Green, he basically got Utah into the Pac-12. He rebuilt a kind of a fun-and-gun, soft Florida team into national championships by toughing them up. And then he goes up to Ohio State and has taken – Dan, you know this. Ohio State has always had great players. Every NFL game I watch, there's 3 guys from Ohio State playing on the team. I mean, it's amazing. But he's taken them to the next level, and give credit to Coach Day, but that program was built by I'm telling you right now, I love playing with the Lions and love playing with the Cleveland Browns. If I'm the Cleveland Browns, I go tell Urban Meyer, what do you want? You want, what do you want, 10% of the ownership? I will give you a Pat Riley deal. Come over here, do this, make us back into the Cleveland Browns, and you can represent us forever, because he's from that area, and I just can't believe what an impact Urban Meyer has had in college football.
These guys are control freaks, though, Gary. I can't see a college coach, and we've seen college coaches try it, and a lot of times it doesn't work because they're so used to having these kids for at least 3 years. They can redshirt you. They have total autonomy. It's like Urban talking about could he coach the Dallas Cowboys? I don't see it because he'd have Jerry Jones there with him.
No, I think the Dallas Cowboys would be a tough fit. He might get him one championship, but then like Jimmy Johnson, it might not work long term. But I think if you had an owner that stepped aside and let him have autonomy, I don't know why. He could be he could be a Bill Belichick. Now, the thing that Bill has, my first team on the Lions, Bill was our tight end coach. So I go all the way back with. I know he was basically an assistant coach. One of those grad assistant coaches. Rick Farzano, who had Navy ties, hired Bill for that spot. And he came in, and we remember him as going to be a great coach someday, and he is. Bill does have those NFL ties. He adores the old part of the NFL, the 70s and the 80s. He loves those guys, so he has that connection. So your point's pretty good. I get that. But, man, if you're Cleveland, those fans deserve a little better. I was there for the fumble. I was there for the drive. There's no better fans in the league, and I just wish they could have their team, be what they should be.
So you were an innocent bystander when Elway had the drive?
I always listen to your show, and I always think, like, God, I wish I was as funny as Reggie Miller and those guys. I'm just not that funny, The people who know me think I'm funny. People who don't, like that. But yes, I was there for the drive. And I remember this, Brian Brennan, the little receiver, every day in practice, he would beat Frank Minifield and Hanford Dixon, our two corners, every day, beat them like a drum. And he'd be so mad that he didn't get Wes Welker numbers nowadays, and he catches the pass with 2 minutes to go. And Elway's not having a great game in that drive, So the last day I ever believed in momentum because we kick off, we got the lead. Elway's not playing well. He gets the ball on the 2-yard line. He's going into the wind, into the best defense in the league, into the dog pound, and he takes it 98 yards. You can take momentum and shove it right up the dog pound, if you ask me.
I'll leave you with this, Gary. How does this play out, that fourth team in? If it is Ohio State, it's LSU, and it's Clemson. Who is number 4?
I know they're going to be happy to get the 4th spot. They're going to have a tough matchup. I'll tell you that because it looks like Ohio State and Clemson, and
LSU.
LSU, all three of them are going to be a tough matchup. If Georgia beats LSU, they're going to get the 4th spot. But, I think the other 3 teams, even if they lose their last game, are in. So that 4th spot, to me, if LSU beats Georgia, I think it's the turn for the Pac-12 to get a shot. If Utah ends up beating Oregon, I think the Pac-12 has had a better conference this year, and Utah's had a better season than Oklahoma. We've seen Oklahoma. I'd give the shot to Utah.
Yeah, but it's a TV show, Gary, and I wonder if that name recognition with Oklahoma trumps Utah.
I know a lot of people say that, but I actually have a lot of faith. I would not like to be one of those 13 people choosing, but I do think they have a lot of respect for college football. I don't believe they choose brand names just for ratings. I just don't believe that's the case. So I give them the credit. They're all excellently known people. They try to do their best. I don't think they would play a TV show type situation. Great
to talk to you, Gary. As always, we appreciate your time. Thank you.
Not as funny as Reggie.
No, you're not.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you, Gary. That's Gary Danielson.
For more Dan Patrick Show, tune into Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV. Stream for free on BR Live or download the Dan Patrick Show app.